And so they start shooting mortars at us, RPGs, AKs, boom, boom. They're shooting all over the place. Now, one of the Marines got wounded. One of my Marines got wounded and went down.
Pulling Thread Podcast, episode 130. Okay, Katy Perry. Tell me what you said, Katy Perry.
What about Katy Perry?
She's still out on tour.
She's still out on tour from the
crazy.
From the fake space exploration escapade. That's when she went on tour. Yeah. And then she was doing all that horrible choreography. It was like fucking terrible.
Still going on.
Looks like she's wearing a diaper. With that kind of money, you'd think that she wouldn't even have to work out. She could just go to sleep and they could fix her while she's asleep and she would wake up not skinny fat or whatever she has going on.
She just got a divorce, right? Orlando Bloom divorced her?
I mean...
Orlando Bloom, that's the dude from Carnival Row.
They all eventually get divorced.
I wonder if it's because of her lawsuit.
Okay, now what did you say? Why is she still on tour?
Well, because he's like, it's amazing that she's still on tour because she's been out so long. And I'm like, she didn't have that fucking choice. Katy Perry she doesn't make a decision of when she wakes up and when she goes to bed. She's contractually obligated. There are dudes in a fucking building somewhere drinking tea and coffee or whatever the fuck they do that tell her where to go, when to go, and how to do it. And she does it.
You know it's adrenochrome, right?
No, there's no way.
The guy's in the building.
Oh, maybe. I was going to say, there's no way she's on adrenochrome. She's like... You watch any of the takes from her tour, she's fucking burnt out. She's done.
She looks like... Have you seen Madonna's tour?
Have you seen
Madonna on tour?
But the same thing happened to Madonna.
Have you seen any of the 50 Cent stuff where he takes Madonna's tour and he's like, "What the fuck happened to you? Are you wearing a diaper right now?" What?
I mean, it would make more sense that obviously it would make more sense if Madonna was wearing a diaper versus Katy Perry, because Madonna is what, 67? She's old.
You want to see a crazy one? Look up Little Kim.
Oh, she's crazy looking.
Holy shit! What happened to that bitch?
But that's the kind of thing that most people don't understand is that those stars at that level are not the masters of their destiny.
And Brandel
especially with their limited. Like Katy Perry, she might be nice to hang out with, but she's got to be pretty dumb.
She definitely can't Darth Maul very well.
No.
Brandel was like, "I want to go on tour like that." And I said, they got her soul somewhere in a bottle.
You don't. That's the thing about that is if you think of any real artists or any artists that had come up through the ranks the way they used to do it, none of those artists will be like, yeah, it was. They will say they gave us a shit ton of money, but once they figure out how the record label and the label was fucking them and how they're flying into cities. They're flying into cities every 3 days. They're in a fucking new city doing the same thing over and over again for those labels. They'll all tell you, fuck that. That's why, when you could get music over the internet, it became much better for the artist because the artist could expose people to their music without having to go through record labels and signing these crazy deals. Because you don't know, Brandel's a young cat coming up with his band. Big record label comes up, and they're like, "Hey, you know what? We think you guys can make it. We can cut these albums for you. We can do all this stuff for you." And then they're like, "That's awesome." And they're you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna give $15 million right now.
But they don't give them $15 million.
No, it's in the contract. They have to pay that fucking money back. Just like the record labels. The funny thing is, people don't know this, that because of the way the record companies used to be, they would do breakage. They would say, you are responsible, the band is responsible for 15% breakage. That's because records were semi-fragile, I guess, and maybe way back in the day when they were still hand cranking the fucking record players, that was an issue. But you as a band, you're like, well, that's nothing. Whatever. Okay, 15 breakage. Okay, I get it. That breakage went through CDs, cassettes. It's the record company making millions.
It's probably still on digital even.
Yeah, it's record companies making millions and millions of dollars off of something that wasn't ever happening. It's all
internet
crooked.
failed that night and didn't completely download.
It's all crooked. There's no reason Like, the reality is, if you're talented, if you really have talent, there is no reason whatsoever to use a label anymore.
Do you you did a bunch of records. You still do records. Did you ever have broken records?
What do you mean?
Do you take delivery of your records?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had them broken?
Like my vinyls?
Yeah.
No.
You pull everyone out, look at it and everything?
Yeah. Before we ship them, we go through every single one and put them back in.
And then you've never had a broken one?
No, I mean, we've had some that are like bent on the edges of like the cardboard, but we've never actually, I mean, out of
So the sleeve.
thousands and thousands we've sent, we've never had
Never a broken record. Is your record maker place in the United States?
Yes.
Interesting.
Although,
Do they still exist?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they
Why don't
do.
we make a record?
Nashville is huge. But if you want a lathe cut vinyl, like they used to do in the 50s and stuff,
Where it has that raspy sound,
so
like the old
basically
retro
they put it
sound.
on an old machine and it cuts it as the song's playing and stuff to make it. We've done those before, and we've had problems with those. Like 3 out of 500 of them were bad.
So what kind of records are you making if you're not making lathe cut records?
So now they don't use, like, they take the hot wax and it's in a ball. You put it down and it's a steel cut press with the record on it, and then they drop it and it literally embosses it, and then bring it up, and then it cuts the extra that came off, and then that's it.
Is this in Nashville?
Yeah.
Can we go there and see that?
Yeah, I can take
Like
you.
we can get a tour of it?
I can get you.
Why don't we make a comedy album?
Because I'm not funny.
You're
Who
funny all
are we
the
gonna
time.
put on there? Sky?
Doesn't matter.
Why don't we
Let's
make
do a comedy album.
Why don't we make a music album?
Like an old Cheech and Chong album. Because you can't sing.
I can sing better
And
than
I
we
can't
can
play
comedy.
And I can't play any instruments.
Okay, so do you think like the left, right? All the crazy shit they do. Do you think they believe in it, or do you think it's just because it's the opposition of the other side? They don't actually believe. Like Gavin Newsom, the crazy shit he does. It's because he's purchased, right? He doesn't believe that shit. Because he's on the other side, he has to take the polar opposite of anything Trump does.
So here's the thing about Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is
Because he's still their guy.
Pelosi's nephew or cousin or some shit. Anyways,
I've heard that.
But Gavin Newsom has been in politics his whole life. He's never had Gavin Newsom doesn't know what a real job looks like, right? So he's lived this life that requires no accountability. Like Gavin Newsom has lived a life that has never required him to have any accountability. That's why when Gavin Newsom's telling everybody you can't go to work, you can't hang out in groups of more than 2, you have to wear a mask everywhere, and closing down business, he's at the winery hanging out with his friends with
French
no masks
Laundry.
On, just doing whatever the fuck he wants.
You know, he owns that place too.
Yeah, because he lives a life of no accountability. And when you live a life of no accountability like that, that's why when you see people really pushing communism in the college campuses, it's always professors that have no accountability, meaning they can't be fired because they have tenure. So it's always these people that have no accountability, and Gavin Newsom is one of those.
All those
Does
people
he
have also
believe-
never had a real business. They never had to run anything.
Does he believe in all the stuff he says? I bet he does. I'll bet he's that delusional and that narcissistic that he believes that what he is saying is true. And because again, he's not pointing. Gavin Newsom.
Can you turn that on?
Gavin Newsom he's not pointing to a single, we all know he's trying to run for president. And Gavin Newsom is not pointing to a single policy. And he can't point to a single policy that he has enacted over his 40-year career that has made California or Californians better off. He can't point to a policy. All he can do is go, Orange man is bad. Orange man is bad. Orange man is bad. He's a collection of failed policies, but he don't care.
Who was bad before Orange Man? Because Newsom's been there a long time, right?
Yeah, but what I think is the reality is when you think about Donald Trump is actually the savior. He's actually the savior of the Democratic Party. I think that Donald Trump is the savior of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party needs Donald Trump more than anything else because their policies have all failed. Every policy, there's no, when Gavin Newsom's like talking about how it's red states that have these murder capital, Tupelo, Mississippi, or Memphis, like that. When they're talking about that, what they're really talking about is Democratic. They're really talking about Democrat cities that are run by Democrats they've been running those cities for generations that have total failed policies. Their policies completely fail. So that there's not a thing where you can go. There's not a thing where you can go, well, the Democrats, I don't know, cured cancer. The Democrats saved, they just don't exist, right? And so all these places, like if you look at Los Angeles, Karen Bass is a total failure as a mayor. You look at these places where Democrats are in charge, their policies are actually ruining those places. Yes, it takes a little bit more time in California because California has the interjection of all the Silicon Valley money, but it's still happening. So they don't have any real good policies. They need Donald Trump because they need to just be able to go. That's why they just say Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump because they're trying to rally their base around this idea that somehow Donald Trump is bad. And they're going to fix everything, like Gavin Newsom, like, I'm going to fix everything. But you don't ever one time hear him say how he's going to fix it. And if what he's saying is even true, because, again, $40 billion stolen from the homeless, $100 billion stolen from the wildfires, another $100 billion stole from the train that goes nowhere. That's the Democratic Party. They cannot control. They can't do anything without stealing or just funneling the money to their friends. That's all this has all been about. The thing about Gavin Newsom, his wife has like 25 nonprofit charities that she's the head of. That all this money's getting funneled to, and it ain't going anywhere. It's not helping the homeless. It's all bullshit. So Gavin Newsom's he's actually a terrible person because he's so narcissistic in thinking, but he's the face that they want. Like they think, the reality is, I think Gavin Newsom's people believe that if Gavin Newsom kind of acts like Donald Trump, like gets in Donald Trump's face, like the way Donald Trump did.
Well, he's trying to right now with his tweets.
No, I know he is. But the problem with
it's not real.
The problem with Gavin Newsom is he can't back any of it up. The minute he says something about, it doesn't matter what it is. The minute he says something about it, come to find out it was his problem anyways. So it's just, I honestly, my opinion is if I was the DNC, I would back AOC. I would back AOC before I would back Gavin Newsom.
Well, that's what the word is. It's him and AOC.
I would Gavin. The problem with Gavin Newsom is, now I get why it's a long, complicated story. I understand why the Democratic Party will probably back Gavin Newsom. Even though he's a failed governor, failed policies, can't do anything he won't be able to do anything for anybody because he just wants to steal it himself. He can bring in a lot of money because Democrats are dumb and they will give money to him just because he is that cute face of the Democratic Party. But he brings too much baggage. He brings 40 years of failed policies with him that a good Republican will be able to tear his ass apart on the fucking campaign trail. Where AOC, she does have some, but you think about it, she does have problems, but she doesn't have the baggage. You can't with AOC, you can go, you can make fun of things that have happened in the past 8 years, but you can, with Gavin Newsom, you can go back 40 years. You can be like this, not only is this a common thing with Gavin Newsom, but it's a thing that he completely repeats over and over again throughout his career. So, again, if I was the Democratic Party, I would back AOC, but the difference is Gavin Newsom's going to be able to bring in money. AOC can't bring in the same kind of money that Gavin Newsom can, and the truth is the Democratic Party is broke.
So you think Gavin Newsom thinks he can really be president? This isn't about just super PAC money, fundraising? So he has that all that money
At,
off of that.
at his level, he is at his level. He is such an like Gavin Newsom is a we would if you had a board of clinical psychologists, real clinical psychologists, and you brought Gavin Newsom in, they would intern him because he is a sociopath. He's a classic sociopath. No, he believes that he can be president, and maybe he can. Maybe he can. Maybe people are that fucking stupid that they think that Gavin Newsom, who has the highest unemployment rate, the highest homeless rate, the highest foreclosure on home rate, that Gavin Newsom somehow, that guy, could turn the country around. And he can't. There's nothing he can do. What he will do is get in power, and then he will pay off all the people that helped him get in power. Because the Democratic Party has nothing. They're just crooked. Like, they are crooked. Now, again, I know I'm saying this, I'm being kind of hard on the Democrats. There's plenty of rhino Republicans who are just as fucking crooked and evil. But the difference is, it has to do with, let's just look at it from a Reagan type of idea. It has to do with trickle-down economics. When a Republican steals money, it's not as noticeable. Like it'll be like we're going to get a road contract, or we're going to get.
There's actually some shit done.
We're going to get a road contract. When the Democrats steal money, it's $100 billion that just disappears. That they just go like this. They got. And the big difference too is, if you're a Republican and you do something that is, we'll just say steal money. Let's say you steal $100,000, or you don't steal it. Let's say I give you the contract for the road, and then you donate $100,000. The Democrats will frothing bit go after that fucking Republican. The Republicans are not the same. Like, the Republicans don't go after the Democrats the way that the Democrats go after them.
Right. You always hear that they play by the rules, like the way the rules are supposed to be. But your opponent's not playing by the rules.
This is what I think. I don't think that they play by the rules. Like, I don't think either side plays by the rules. I think the difference is the Republican Party, both parties are both parties at this point are just, they're borderline insane. But I think the Republican Party and the Democratic Party for years have just been moving along and going, hey, you're going to steal a little, we're going to steal a little. You're going to steal a little, it's why it's why both parties, you're going to be a millionaire faster. You're going to be a millionaire faster if you go into federal politics, than any other way in the.
Yeah, but the Republicans are like the British invading the United States, right? They're still playing by gentlemanly warfare,
I think,
and they're like, every time we line up, five of our guys get killed on the end. Like, what the fuck's going on? Like, they can't figure it out.
I think they can figure it out. I just think that the Republicans are still kind of worried about public image, and the Democrats don't care. Like, the Democrats will literally come out and go, yeah, we lost $100 billion.
Like, you see, like right now, right? They've kicked a lot of the mainstream media out of the press conference room, right? There's still dipshits in there. And then they've got dudes like Tim Pool and fucking all that side. Like, the should be, I guess nowadays they are the mainstream media, but alternative media, right? And then I heard the dude Phil from All That Remains. He actually trained with Brian Sayers, Super Trooper, out of New York, the Highway Patrol guy. There's some video of him actually training that dude in his classes. 3R Operations, I think, is the name of his company, which is cool. And I heard him say last night, he's like, if the Democrats get back in office, they're going to arrest Tim Pool. Like, Tim Pool's going to be sitting in a fucking prison cell somewhere because he's inciting, right? And he's saying things that they don't want said. And he has a huge following Tim Pool has more of a following than CNN has now at this point. And they're going to, that's what the Democrats do. They are going to put those people in prison. You saw them do it with the January 6th, all those people they had in prison over January 6th. Grandmas they were pulling in from Alaska and shit. That never even entered the building. They were still 5 years later rounding people up and arresting them.
I'm not saying that they don't.
But the Republicans don't do that shit. I mean, maybe they are right now.
No, they don't.
Maybe they are.
They don't. It's because even if you think like, what are we doing? We're doing closed. What are we doing right now? We're doing closed door depositions on the Epstein files. Closed doors. That means nobody gets to see the drama that goes on behind they're going to have testimony that nobody's ever going to hear. Chances are, Democrats wouldn't do that. If in fact the shoe was on the other foot, meaning it was mostly Republicans and not a lot of Democrats, it would be open session. They would make sure that everybody could hear it. But because it's Democrats, I don't know why the Republican Party protects Democrats the way they do, because they do protect them. Because there's no reason why, like the AG, there's not a single reason why the AG could not open a case against the state of California for the billions of dollars that U.S. federal taxpayers gave to them to do the rail. It's not. They could open a case against the state of California.
I've heard Trump even say that they owe all that money.
For whatever reason, we just don't. The Republican Party doesn't do that, and I don't. For a selfish reason, I wish they would. But the reality is, I like the fact that Trump is focusing on the business of America and less on the politics of America. And that's probably why they hate him so much, because he's doing all the things that the people really want him to do, and damn the politics of it, right? Who cares about the politics of it? So whatever. He's got a 52% approval rating. So he's doing what we want him to do versus being forced to do things like the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, what they do is they use the force of the military or law enforcement in order to force people to their will, and that never works out good. Not here in America.
Have you seen the Obama museum that they're building?
No.
So it's in Chicago, right? And he came out and he's like, and the good news is this museum, this park will be built by people that look like the people from the area, right? So he's going to hire people from Chicago or whatever. Do you know what take a guess what the main draw, the focal point of the park and the museum area, what do you think it looks like if you had to guess?
Prison?
Giant fucking butt plug.
Oh.
Looks like an enormous fucking butt plug. It's fucking, and people in the area are all up in arms. I'm sure you could find, no matter where anybody goes, you could find somebody that's up in arms over it. But I found it kind of interesting. Well, kind of funny, really. Did you see the Putin thing in Alaska?
I mean, I watched a little bit of it, but
how'd they time that? How far off did those jets have to be that they couldn't? Maybe there was a bunch of other jet traffic too, but I mean, they just met right there on the tarmac, and those four F-22s and the B, what is it, B-1, B-2?
Let's not forget. Again, people are focused on the wrong things. Let's not forget they walked by. It's not just. They also walked by the most advanced aircraft in the world. Yeah, like walked right next to them. That
they existed. Those weren't cardboard cutouts or balloons.
Yeah, but that wasn't. That wasn't like, oh, those planes were just parked here. The people don't understand, especially Democrats, because they live in some sort of funky bubble. Is the projection of power is more important. The projection of power is more important than the collection of power.
Was it
the entire Washington D.C.? The reason why Washington D.C. all the buildings are white and big is because what they were trying to do is show how much power we had, that we could afford to make these giant buildings. It was intimidation. That's all that stuff was. lot of people, again, because Democrats, you hate history. Theodore Roosevelt, real Theodore Roosevelt, the one that carried the big stick, he had a shooting range on the White House grounds. And when dignitaries were scheduled to come, he would be out there shooting long range.
In the front yard, wasn't it?
Yeah. He would be out there shooting long range. He wasn't doing that because he did like shooting, but that was intimidation. It was intimidation. We were bringing these dignitaries over here and then forcing them to walk out. Oh, he's out back shooting, forcing him to walk out there and see him shooting these targets long range. That was intimidation. The thing that Trump just did, it's the same thing. That's why those F-22 Raptors were parked right there. That's why the greatest fucking bomber to ever exist with 4 F-22 Raptors flew over. It's also why when Putin flew into the country and Putin flew out of the country, F-22 Raptors escorted him. Because...
Where was his escorts?
Well, I'm sure there's a certain point where their escorts come and then their escorts peel off. It is a...
You don't think we would let them just bring their...
It's a international courtesy that there's a point in your journey where you
hand off
and you're now responsible for the protection of that said asset.
You don't think they'd just let them... I would think we'd just let them fly their MiGs or whatever and land, see what the fuck they really are dealing with, what they got.
Oh, but we don't need to. We don't need to. We don't need to.
Was it Normandy was able to happen because of our inflatable tanks? Where did we have the inflatable tanks?
That was part of the deception for Normandy. Yeah. They built a whole army for George Patton that was completely fake, because the Germans believed that, because at the time General Patton was the best general that we had, and the Germans believed that he would be the one leading the D-Day invasion. So in another part of England, they built a whole landing force out of inflatables and had George's headquarters there and created fake communications, message traffic it. So the Germans would think that the invasion would be south of where it actually was. So yeah, balloons. You can get an inflatable M1 Abrams.
But those F-22s sitting on the tarmac there,
those were
not
definitely
inflatables.
Real. Yeah, of course those were definitely real.
So it's said, and of course there's no audio of it, but it is said that when they paused and Putin looked up and Trump said yeah or whatever, he said, "I'll bet you never want to see those over your head again, do you?"
I don't know. I think it was pretty. Trump is, again, people don't give him credit. Trump is. He is the master of the real business deal, and sometimes you have to flex. And I think he probably just was like, I think Trump, because he does start clapping. I think Trump was just like, it's pretty badass, isn't it? Look at that. That's pretty badass. You feel that? Yeah, I think that's all he was doing, was flexing. I mean, well, the reality is that was the whole point of it, was to flex and show Putin that, in this big scheme of things, you don't have the capability to even go to war with us, because here we go. I can do this just for fun. He does
keep saying, like, when they asked him today about would the United States be involved in Ukraine, he said maybe from air assets, because we have stuff that nobody else has. We have capabilities in the air that no one has.
Speaking of capabilities that nobody else has, is they just admitted to seventh gen aircraft in the sky. So they just admitted to.
Yeah, but what the fuck is that? Is that Star Trek?
Well, according to sources, which you don't know until you know, but that a single seventh gen aircraft could end a war. Now, let's just be clear. Since the first plane took off and we gave command of that to generals, those generals have always been saying that we don't need ground forces anymore because the air will, just like the Navy's like, we don't need because of the artillery. And it's never been true. Like, it's never ever been true. There's never been an incident where we've done, whether it's in Vietnam, whether it's in Iraq, whether it's on Iwo Jima, there's never been a single incident where we've prepped the battle space with air and artillery or whatever, and we didn't need to send ground troops in. It's always been a fucking lie, right? That this thing is so much better than it is. But I mean, you take a look at like the Raptor. The Raptor has these special like special things on it, these special reflectors that when a Raptor's just cruising, or when a Raptor's like flying in Europe or escorting the president, the Russian president back to Russia, it has these reflectors that it pops up, and it pops these reflectors up to give radar signature, so people's radar can actually see the plane. Outside of that, they have no fucking clue. Like, they have no clue of the capability of a Raptor. And you think about it, a Raptor it's 30 years old. Mm-hmm. 25 years old technology. It's old.
And we haven't even fucking used them in battle, have we?
I'm sure we maybe.
Those are the F-22s?
Yeah. The F-22s, maybe. I'm not sure.
Because all you hear is F-35, F-35,
well,
F-35.
It's because the reason, again, politics.
Because we gave them to other people.
Well, politics. What a lot of people don't know is the Raptor, when the Raptor was finished, and the production line was done, the U.S. government was like, oh, no, that's too, because again, Northrop Grumman, all those companies, they're not looking to make a multi-billion-dollar plane for the United States and sell to the United States.
Residual sales.
They're looking for the residual sales. And so when the Raptor was done, the U.S. government went, oh no, nope, this is too good. Destroy everything. So they destroyed everything. They destroyed all the tooling. They destroyed all the blueprints. They destroyed everything. So technically the Raptor can't be reproduced, right?
You don't think we have all that shit in a cave somewhere?
No, they destroyed it all. Because they've actually, the U.S. military has done studies. They've actually done studies because we're starting to get long in tooth with the Raptor, meaning flight hours and how many Raptors are out there, and they've done studies on what it would cost to redo the line, to bring the line back up and it's expensive. And so because the government was like, kill it, that's when the F-35 came into play, and they're like, well, just make it a little dumber, and then you can sell the F-35. That's why everybody has F-35s. Everybody has F-35s because they can't have Raptors. And when you think about it, the F-35 even the F-35 outclasses anything that the Russians have, outclasses anything that the fucking Chinese have. It outclasses all those, we're not talking about a 1-to-2 ratio, 1-to-4 ratio. Like that, the F-35 will go probably 1-to-5 or even probably more against its contemporaries. They just don't have the capability. Like if you take a look at the Russians' Su-57, I think it is, their stealth aircraft, they've got rivets. I mean, they got screws, Phillips head screws on their aircraft. That's all radar signature. That's all radar signature. It's the reason why it's one of the things that people don't understand is it's the reason why the Russians are not using their advanced aircraft against Ukraine, because the Ukrainians shot it down, and immediately the Chinese went, "Hey, motherfuckers, don't! Now everybody knows we're flying fucking boxcars. Stop! Don't let them shoot those aircraft down." And like, I don't know if people, if you think again, when the Ukrainians did that long range attack with the drones, and they were hitting those.
That was actually Operation Boxcar, I'm pretty sure.
They were hitting those long range bombers and those aircraft at those fields. They didn't really do any damage to the Russian strategic assets. Those aircraft that you saw the tires sitting on and all that, those are boneyard aircrafts just like ours that we have in Nevada. Those aircraft weren't operational. You don't put 2,000 or maybe even heavier, 2,000 pounds of tires on an aircraft that you think is operational. All they were doing was keeping those wings from flapping in the wind out there so they could take engines off of them, and they could do the same thing we do. The reality is the Russians, since Putin has become president, has been trying to do a modernization of its military. It started with the army. That's why you had new rifles, new equipment, it started with the army. But it's very expensive to do modernization in a country that is run the way that country is run. So it's very expensive to do that. That it hadn't come around to the aircraft. Like the reality is they're fucking 5th generation fighters. I think they got 10. 10. We've got more in reserve than they can put on the fucking front line.
And who knows where we have them stashed. I mean, look at what the Nazis had during World War II. We're still finding fucking caves and bases underground full of, their aircraft and shit. Who knows what we have. They say there's a ton of shit in the Grand Canyon. They say there's stuff all over the place.
It'd be neat to find a cave full of
What about
F-22 Raptors.
What's this new rifle that the Marine Corps has picked up that's replacing the M4? It's replacing the 249. It's between an M4 and a 249. Are you up on
the
this?
250?
It's a HK rifle.
Oh, I don't know. No, I don't know.
So Dirty Civilian just did a video on this about civilian ownership of a squad automatic weapon, and that's what they were talking about. They're talking about putting a super trigger in one of these things. And the craziest thing that stuck out, which was said like 20 times, is that the combat loadout is 20 magazines. 22, I think they said actually 22 magazines. And they're not talking 30 rounders, they're talking 40, because this thing isn't firing a nutsack, it's firing out of a drum or a
it's not new. That's not new. That's not new. The Marine Corps I can't think of the name of the designation of the rifle, but the Marine Corps wanted to move the saw out of the frontline units, and so they decided that they were going to bring back the automatic rifleman in the sense of a BAR, magazine fed rifle. That's the HK gun, and so this was all a big trick. Really, most people don't understand this is a big trick by the Marine Corps. So they do this whole thing. And they do cost analysis and everything, and they're like, this HK rifle, this fully automatic, or it's fully semi-automatic rifle, is cheaper to produce, costs us less to maintain than the saw. We pull the saw out, give us these rifles, right? And so what happens is the Department of Defense is like, all right, sounds okay. Go ahead, Marine Corps. And so Marine Corps gets that HK. They get the HK in the inventory. They get it in the inventory. And then once it's in the inventory, they go, For symbolization of the supply chain and to ensure that all Marines have the same capability across the board, why don't we just arm everybody with one of these?
Yep.
And so everybody has that HK. Well, what's happening is everybody has that HK, but you still have a problem. Does not matter how fast you make a AR-15. It does not do the things that a belt fed can do. It just does not. It does.
What's the caliber of this thing?
They're all 5.56. It doesn't matter what you pretend, what the Department of Defense or the Marine Corps wants to pretend that weapon system provides the infantry. It never substitutes a belt fed. It can't substitute belt fed because the belt fed has the capability, reality, to shoot continuously. That gun does not. It requires reloads, and 20 magazines it's not only heavier than the belt that it's replacing, but it's also cumbersome on how you carry that, right? Because again, it becomes this thing.
Well, what they were talking about was you can't shoot it off the bipod with a 40-round mag in it because it's fucking too long.
It's probably too long, yeah. So, and the Marine Corps won't. I don't think I would have to. It's been a million years since I've been in though. I would be very hesitant to say this, but I don't think that the Marine Corps would issue a drum anyway. So you have this situation where you've now given everybody these rifles, which is it's an improvement. I do think it might be a little bit of an improvement. Not the improvement that everybody pretends it is, because it's still shooting a 5.56 bullet. You still need the saws. You still need the saws. The saws still should be organic in the rifle. Because I will tell you this: every weapon system organic to a rifle platoon. Every weapon system organic to a rifle platoon, whether it was an M16, M203, no matter what volume of fire we were doing, no matter what volume of fire that my rifle platoon was doing with those weapons, to include shooting 40 millimeter. So shooting 40 millimeter grenades, all the 5.56 you can handle, whether you were on 3-round burst shooting it or semi whatever. I knew 100%. I knew 100% of the time. 100% of the time this happened. The minute the saw gunners started shooting, so the minute they started getting in the fight, the minute they started returning fire, I knew it was over. I knew that in a matter of seconds it was going to be over because this doesn't have anything to do with hits on target or, fatalities on the battlefield. The tempo changes. Once you go from pew, 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 to a saw, that tempo
what do they
changes.
call it? Also, in first contact, both saws fire. They just dump, and then you have it. What's it called? Talking rifles? Or
yeah, that's it. Where they're talking rifles, but that's only the problem with that is that's open.
In training.
That it's training, but it's open battlefield concept. It doesn't have anything to do with urban warfare because it's harder to get. Usually when you're doing fighting in the city, it's a small point of contact. So meaning your front element gets in contact. Now the rest of your element has to maneuver in a manner where they can see where the enemy is or engage the enemy. And you're never in a situation where I don't want to say never. Again, there's going to be all these keyboard warriors out there. But usually it's not like an online thing where you're online and everybody sees the same thing at the same time. They rarely do. It's going to be the people that have the view. And so a lot of times, again, the Cobra Mosque incident, when we had the Cobra Mosque incident, probably 20 minutes we were back and forth with these guys before one of my saw gunners could even maneuver into a position where he could fire back, like even in the direction fire back. So it takes time to have that happen because again you got to figure out where the fire is coming from. It's a lot more complicated than what they do in the movies where everybody just runs up online and starts shooting the jungle and shit.
So this you can have one of these rifles. There's two companies, I guess, in the United States that are making clones of them, basically. I wish I could remember the name. It's a company name I've never heard of, and you wouldn't think it was a rifle company. But they build it with a heat sink. It's got all the shit in it and everything. Pretty cool. I hadn't heard of them. Seemed pretty neat.
I don't want to. Again, this is the automatic rifleman. So the BAR was
30-06.
Yeah, but the BAR was an outdated concept. The BAR was an outdated concept when it was implemented in World War II. It was outdated. The only reason why they used the BAR, the only reason why the BAR stayed within the fight, was because because the 1919s were too heavy. If the 1919 load could have been lighter, that BAR would have replaced with a 1919. You can't. The reality is, you cannot in a magazine-fed weapon system. You can't outperform a belt-fed.
Is there a stock for the 1919? Can you kind of shoulder fire or hip fire it other than the little thing?
The Israelis made I think they called it the 1919 A2 maybe, but they made this goofy. I have one for my 1919. They made this goofy stock that clamps on there, and a bipod set, so you could use it like an M60 machine gun. But this was when they did that. That was in the early 80s, I think, and so the M60s were already out there, but they had to do it just because they couldn't get our M60s at the time. So they turned these 1919s into what you would call like a ground mountable weapon system. But for the United States, the first really really non-tripod mounted operations of the. I mean, people had done it, but it was John Basilone who made the carrying handle so that the guy could move and shoot at the same time. But even that was kind of ridiculous.
So the reason you see, like, when the guys get their first machine gun, a lot of times it's a Browning, a BAR, because they were more affordable than the other, shit like that. I remember our buddy James in Vegas, he got that, and he said he got that originally. That was his first machine gun because it was more affordable than, an M60 and, all the other type stuff.
Definitely.
Did the Marine Corps go from the M60 to the 249, or was there did they ever have, is there a man-portable, like, 240? Don't the SEALs have one, don't they? A 7.62, squad automatic weapon that they can just that replace the M60?
I don't know what the SEALs, because obviously we went from the M60 all the way to the M60 Echo 4. By the time I got in, we had the Echo 4s, which was the short Rambo one with the pistol grip on the front of it. And then from there, we went right into the 240s. Now, with the 249, the M249, that was an Army contract, meaning that the Army was the one that was looking for a light machine gun that could be squad, blah, blah, blah. The Marine Corps got the hand-downs of those. So we adopted a program from the U.S. Army and took the 240 Gulf and used it in that light machine gun role.
So you have a man portable, has a stock on it, kind of for a 7.62.
No, not 7.62.
Okay,
that was the SAW, and then we went. At the time, we were using the SAW at the same. When we got the SAW, we were still using M60s.
Okay.
We still had Echo. We went Echo. In my time, I think we went from the Echo 3s to the Echo 4s, and then 240 Gulfs.
Did you have M60s on patrol with you?
No, because so an M60 would be considered M60 was the medium machine gun, and that was within weapons company, and so they only had so many M60s within weapons company. Now this all changed when the Marine Corps went from a predominantly infantry foot mobile unit to predominantly infantry vehicle. Once we started getting more vehicles, we had to get more machine guns. But at that time, there was only so many machine guns within weapons company, and depending on your maneuver space, so whatever you were doing, so like if let's say Charlie Company was going to attack an objective, we would get assigned a machine gun squad. So you would get like 2 M60s. And then each M60 would come with 4 guys, an ammo bearer, tripod guy, some other bullshit, right?
Do you wish you had a 7.62 gun out there when you guys got in contact like that? The Moskin, for instance?
The Mosque incident, no 7.62 gun. The police station incident, we had a 240 Gulf with us, and that was... I don't know if it was... that was just the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. Like, You hate to think, you're in the middle of this. You're in the middle of this situation. We had, what did we have? We had 8 guys. I think we had 8 guys. It was kind of like a reinforced squad. We went out as far as we could into an area where I never understood this. Even today I can't understand this. There were areas where you would take over, like we were at Husaba at that time, and you would take this area over, and there were areas on the map where the unit that you would be replacing would be like, don't go there, don't go there. There's bad guys there. Don't go there. I never understood that. I'm like, that's what the fuck we're here for. I never understood that, and it seemed like everywhere, the times I was in Iraq. Even kind of in Mogadishu, there was this thing where they would be like, "Oh, there's bad guys. Don't go there." It's like, what the fuck? Then send me home. If we're not going to go fight these motherfuckers, then send me home.
Right. If we're worried about it, let's mortar
so
it first.
3rd platoon. I would attempt to convince the chain of command that these are the places we need to go. Right. We need to go to these places. Every time we went, we got in a fight, and guess what? Every time we got in a fight, we won, because we're fucking Americans and we're better. Sorry, I'm being arrogant. I know it doesn't always end up that way.
No, it always ends up that way.
But again, we were in this area that we were not supposed to be, and what we did was, I had a full squad. It was 12 guys that were in this building that were on the edge. They were on the edge of the city, so behind them was all open country field. In front of them was all city. And then we moved 8. There were like 8 guys, I think, if I remember right. We moved into the police station, which was kind of in town. It was definitely in town. We were surrounded by city, but it was again right across the street from one of their mosques where they get their AKs blessed and all that bullshit. And they, just by happenstance, we again. We used to do this a lot in California with SOTG, is sneaking into places where we weren't supposed to be and then not getting caught. We ended up getting into this police station, and the bad guys didn't know we were there. 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, old man comes to go to work, I guess, show up at the police station. The police station at this time was completely abandoned. There was no police in Husaba at the time. But they had shovels and stuff in there like it was a construction crew area. And it was locked up, and he comes to the gate, and one of my guys is like, hey, there's an old man out front trying to get in. So I just go out to the gate. I'm just like, I just shake my head. Not today, right? And he leaves. And then...
Was it normal to see Americans around there?
No. We were, again, this was the area where they said, don't go. You're not allowed to go down there because there's bad guys down there. And so he leaves, and then I got guys on the roof. It was a pretty nice, for a defensible position. It was pretty nice. It had a 5-foot outer wall, and then it had a circle of office buildings, right? So now you have these 1-story buildings that are in a circle, and in the middle there was another small building. So we put everything in the our packs and shit in the center of the building, and they. My guys are like, hey, there's a dude down at the end of the street, like directing traffic. And so I get up on the roof and I look, and there's definitely a dude. He's probably 300 yards away, got his AK, and he's directing traffic. Because now this road that's running in front of the police station is 4 lanes. It's two southbound, 2 northbound lanes, and with a little center divide in the middle, and he's directing traffic to go the other way, and I'm like, "All right, they're setting the battlefield. They're setting the battlefield space up." And then this like Honda Civic. I mean, I gotta hand it to the local fighters. Like I gotta the local Husaba fighters. They were concerned about civilian casualties. They ran down the street, they just hauled ass right in front of the building with their car, honking their horn to get everybody to go inside, and came back down the other way, honking the horn to go down the other side. And then I don't know why. I don't know if they didn't really know where we were, or if they didn't really know. They must have not really known where we were. Like, they probably knew we were in this area. Like, the guy was like, hey, they're down there somewhere. Because a Ford Bronco came hauling ass down the road, and it tried to turn across the median like this, and it crashed into there's like, stupid little gates or fences along the road, and it crashed into that gate, and then the guys jumped out and started shooting at the police station. But we're like on the roof, and like they're not shooting, like they don't see anybody. They can't see anybody.
Is the walls made of brick or what?
Yeah, it's all. Sorry, all the buildings in Husaba, it's all concrete brick buildings, right? And so they're shooting.
So their arms won't go through the concrete.
No. I mean, not ours wouldn't either. So they're shooting at the thing, and then they don't realize we're on the fucking roof, so we just light them up. But I had a again. I digress. We had a 240 Gulf there. Campbell was the section leader who later went on to be a fucking MARSOC Marine and outstanding. He was an outstanding Marine there. A great Marine. I really enjoyed the opportunity to spend time with him. He was a good Marine. but Campbell was a section leader for the 240 Gulf, and so it was him and then 3 other Marines.
Does that 240 just fires off a bipod, just like a 249?
Yeah, it's a 240.
Does it have a stock on it?
It has a stock.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
do you remember Mag 58?
Mm-hmm.
The British gun.
Yeah.
That's all it
Got
is.
it.
We just took the wood stock off and put a plastic stock on. And so I'm on the roof now. At this point, as soon as this engagement happens, all the local fighters are like, "Oh, it's on! Let's shoot the fucking let's attack!" And so they start shooting mortars at us, RPGs, and AKs. Boom, boom. They're shooting all over the place. Now, I got up on the roof initially to see what the dude was doing directing traffic, but I got on the far side of the. So there's these two, like, not really elevator shafts, but they're stairways that go all the way to the top. And at the top, they have like just a shack where you walk out onto the roof. Well, the one on the left side of the building was an open stairway all the way up. The one on the right side of the building, it still had the shack up there, but somebody had completely closed off the stairwell, so you couldn't go down. So I got up on the roof and ran across to that so I could see better down the road, and basically kind of fighting from that little spot. And I can't remember this is when we brought the small gunners up, and they did we had their little antics with the small gunners. That was pretty funny. But I can't remember what happened. I think Campbell. Oh, one of the Marines. One of the Marines got wounded. One of my Marines got wounded, and went down. So he went down to the ground floor because Doc was down on the ground floor, and so I didn't know how bad he was wounded, and so I had to run across the roof, get to the stairwell. Now there's 3 Marines at that opening that are shooting. It was the 2 small gunners and another Marine that were shooting from there. And so they're shooting off the roof into the bad guys, and I run across behind them and go into the stairwell. And when I get to the stairwell, this is one of those times. And after this happened, I bought a bullet helmet camera, and I took it everywhere I went because of this incident with Campbell. I get to the stairwell, and it's just like it was the first time this has happened to me in the military, where it was just like a movie. There's 2 guys on the stairwell stacked up, like they're getting ready to go outside, so they're pressed up against the wall in the stairwell. And then that stairwell, right at the first landing, it had a window, just a small window. And it had a small window, and I come in there, and there are links. There are 7.62 links and 7.62 brass all over the ground, just all over the ground. And this kid has got the 240, and he's got it rested on the windowsill, and he's just going back and forth, just sliding across that windowsill, just back and forth, just roasting that 240. And I probably shouldn't be so happy that that this was happening, but I was like, oh my God, this is the fucking coolest thing I've ever seen. I literally stopped for like 3 seconds. To watch this. It seemed like I was watching it for a half hour, because it was almost like it was actually probably better than if you guys seen Taps. If anybody out there, if you see Taps and you see Tom Cruise at the end with the M60, it was exactly like that. This kid is just going to town with this 240 Gulf, and I was just like, I couldn't, like, it's been 20 years. I still am excited about this thing going on. And Campbell is right next to him. And I think I had the Saving Private Ryan moment where I was just like, ooh, focused on this kid shooting this 240 Gulf, going, that is the coolest shit. And then I hear Campbell yelling at me. Campbell's yelling at me. He's like, we need more ammo. We need more. I'm like, we need more ammo? What the fuck? We need more ammo. And he's like, yeah, we brought more ammo, but nobody can find it. Like, but we need more ammo for this gun. They were basically on the left flank. On the left flank of this building, there was an open field that was probably, it was like 100 yards. It was like 100 yards wide on our flank, and then it went like, probably 500. Probably not even 500 yards. Probably 300 yards before the next building. And the bad guys, for some reason, instead of going all the way around, were trying to cut across this field to get. They were trying to flank us. which would have never happened.
And that's what he was doing.
And that's what they were doing with the
coming in.
240, keep them from being able to cut across that flank. And so, anyways, I ran downstairs and found the ammo and brought it back up. But that was, 240 is, the reality is any general, if there's a general officer or I would say anybody from the rank of colonel and above that is talking about getting rid of, putting aside, I don't care what belt fed it is. The belt feds that we have in inventory right now are probably some of the best. He should just be kicked in the balls because he's only doing it. He's only doing it as a cost saving measure. He's not doing it he's not doing it for any force protection reasons. Those belt fed guns, they always change. Again, what they do is they change the rhythm. Like they change, which most people don't understand, is you get in these shooting matches with small arms with a typical infantry load, whether it's AKs or M16s. You get in these shooting matches and it's like you're playing country western. You're just playing country western. It's good country western, and you're just playing it. Both of you guys are playing country western back and forth. The minute either side introduces their belt feds to that
right,
music,
it's like AC/DC.
Yeah, you're changing it. You're changing the whole fucking tempo, and everybody in the group starts mimicking what that tempo is. And so belt feds are just. I mean,
if you'd had a 50 there that day, would it made any difference?
I don't. Okay, again, would it have made any difference? It definitely would have made difference for the school, and it definitely would have made difference for the mosque. We would have blown those two fucking buildings apart because they were hiding. Basically, they were fighting from the mosque, and there was again. Remember, this is Husaba at this time is a totally defunct. It's a defunct town, meaning there's no municipality, there's nobody picking up trash, there's nobody. There's no teachers in the school, so the school was empty. But that's what they were. They were using the school and the monastery, not the monastery, but the mosque to attack the police station because they both were directly across the police station. Yeah, 50 cal would have rocked it, but.
So this town here, they didn't have a Dishka or anything. They didn't have any bigger guns.
They had their version of the 240 Golf. They had the RPK. They had RPKs. I don't know if I ever saw RPD there, but they had RPKs, which RPK is the same thing as a 240, except it shoots 7.62 by 54R. A very good, capable machine gun. You could argue that it might be a little better than a 240 because it's a lot lighter.
Is it a possibility that you guys even could have had a 50? Like, you don't go out on patrols with 50s or anything.
No, I mean...
Only vehicle mount?
Back in the old days. Back in the old days when the Marine Corps was young and vibrant, say, we'll just go back to like 1988, it wouldn't be impossible to think that a company within an infantry battalion would have humped a 50 cal somewhere. When we were still doing the McCrest hikes, those poor bastards in Weapons Company. God, Weapons Company. Those poor bastards in Weapons Company had to do the 25 miler with M2s. So you could be, let's just go back to what I was talking about before. If I was the company that was going into the offense, so I'm going to offensively engage a enemy, I could get tasked, from Weapons Company, I could task out M60s. So I would get these M60s in a support by fire role for whatever the attack was. If I was going into a defensive, if I was the company that was going to move into the defensive position, then I could also get tasked out with M250 cals and have those in just regular bunkers M2s.
Just to have standoff.
Just for the firepower of it, right? Because there's things that an M2 can do that none of those other machine guns can do. Today it would be more of, I would say it's more of a rarity, but it's not, because the vehicles that we've adopted for the military in general, we're a lot more high mobile than we used to be, obviously, and so it would be easier for me to get a Humvee with an M2 on it now, with a full complement of ammunition, than it would have been back in the 19 days when we were just humping everywhere. Like when we were doing when we were, it would be very rare for a rifle company to have an M2 attached, outside of specific type of.
But on this specific patrol, you having a Humvee was not an option.
No, it was all everything in Husaba was foot patrol.
And this went on so long, you ended up calling air support on this mission?
Yeah, on this day we had, I bet.
So it sounds like you would have needed a 50 cal.
I'll bet. No, it's just great to have an opportunity to bring the rest of the band in. You got all these,
How fucked would you have been? Did you already have air tasked to you? Like you knew that was an option?
No, I didn't.
How fucked would you have been had that air not
you have
shown
to you have to understand that when this particular incident happened, we were pretty new to Husaba. I think so. I don't know if the police station was first or the Cobra Mosque was first. I'd have to look at my notebook. But we were still pretty new at this, and you have to also understand that at the time we took over Husaba, President Bush had already declared the war in Iraq over. So stuff was still going on. The insurgency was just starting to kick off, but most people weren't seeing any action. So when we went out there wasn't like when we went out there to that area, I wasn't briefed and been like, these assets are on station, this is what the capability is. Even at that time in the Marine Corps, I couldn't have called those assets in. We didn't have,
so there was no QRF or anything.
Which is dumb since I spent almost 10 years calling in air assets. No, you would have an internal QRF, so Baker Company had a QRF, which was just Humvees. And
how fast would it take them to get to you?
Oh, they could have been in my position in 8 minutes probably, because again, 4-lane road straight down. Would they have gotten engaged? They probably would have got, because I was only maybe 2 miles away from the firm base, which was a infantry company. It was an infantry company, Baker Company, supported by weapons company. So we had full complement of weapons. We had 81 millimeter mortars, 60 millimeter mortars. All the CAT vehicles, but because of the confinement. So again, the problem with urban warfare is the confinement space. Vehicles aren't necessarily an asset; they become a detriment to your mission because it's really easy to block them in. Right? It's really easy to block them in. So it wasn't. It was very rare. It was very rare that you would push vehicles out in to help somebody out there, unless it was really bad. Like we did have a really bad incident where we actually pushed the Amtracs out to recover some CAT vehicles, but we stayed we stayed on the fob for a long time while that engagement was going on, because you don't want to put more fire, throw more gasoline on a fire. But yeah, I got the full complement that day. We had Cobra gunships come and make tow runs and minigun run, or 20 millimeter gun runs. We had the Huey, come in with the fucking minigun and do a run in front of us with the minigun. That was with Campbell. That was funny as hell. F-18s, 2 F-18s came in and dropped ordnance. That was also a funny experience, because you can't. So again, obviously, because I was classically trained as a scout sniper, I had done all the CAS missions, so I had called CAS before, so I knew all the thing. But because the Marine Corps, I don't know if the Marine Corps in general, but forces in country were having some issues with close air support. The Marine Corps at that time decided that the ground element could no longer call in CAS. That the CAS officer, had to call it in from where he was at, which.
And you didn't have a CAS guy with you.
Which was no, because at the time, what was happening was, all prior to that, the Marine Corps was just training Marines to do it. Like, snipers and shit. We're training Marines to do it. And then we had some sort of, I don't know what the incident was, but there was some incident that happened where the Marine Corps was like, nope, just the officers can call it. I think it wasn't a friendly fire incident. I believe that what happened was some ordnance ordnance was dropped and civilians were killed, and then they were like, oh no, you can't, regular guys can't do it anymore.
We used to see guys come in the shop that were cast guys that were chopped to like force or whatever, but it was I think it was 18 months. They'd be out of the F-18 and attached to a force platoon.
That's the actual air officers. So every battalion has always had an air officer, and he's basically the middleman between the ground force commanders and the air commanders. He's kind of the guy that when the infantry guy is speaking infantry, he translates that into regular, but he's not usually, unless it's usually that officer is usually not the guy that's calling the air. Like the force guys, they have that officer, but the force guys are calling the air themselves. Like they're bringing the aircrafts in themselves.
So with your comms you had on the ground with you that day, were you able to talk directly to air, or did you have to talk to a boss?
That was it. I had to talk to a boss.
Got it. And then they called. So from calling for assistance, how long until air showed up the first run?
Oh, we had been in the engagement long enough.
So they knew.
Yeah, we had been in the engagement long enough that they were calling us. They were like, hey, the fucking, Cobra gunship. Hey, Huey. Hey, we got F-18s. And so they were calling us.
Do you get to pick who you want to come in?
No, it's whatever asset is on station first.
Because they're just wagon wheeling at this point, right?
Well, with both the Huey and we had sorry guys, I want to say 22nd. I want to say 22nd MEU, but I'm not sure. I'd have to look at I believe it was the 22nd MEU. We had the 22nd MEU at that time had been tasked with the aerial security, right? So they already had a Huey and a Cobra in the air, not specifically tasked to Husaba, and then the F-18s were flying off of one of the carriers. Again, not specifically tasked to Husaba, they're just flying. And so it'd be like you're flying over San Diego looking for something to happen, and then Camp Pendleton calls. And we're like, hey, there's a real fight going on up here. Well, at that time, because nothing was going on, because nothing was going on in Iraq, not anything serious, because again, Bush had already declared the war over in Iraq. All those assets just hauled ass up north to get in the fight, because again, it's one of those things. You're carrying around all this ordnance and shit.
So what came in first?
Cobra gunship came in first.
And you're like, that didn't do enough. We need some more.
No. He went bingo. The Cobra gunship went bingo, meaning he fired everything he had. Yeah. So he did a tow missile, basically about half a mile south of us. It'd actually be, sorry, I know I was using north and south, but it's actually east and west there. But about half a mile east of us, one of the towers in Husaba spotted a bunch of fucking ISIS guys pulling guns out of a building and
you guys?
Yeah, and pulling guns out of a building and putting them in a fucking a van, right? So they see this van and they see this shit happening. Well, at the time they see it and report it downstairs, this Cobra gets on station. And so they're like, oh, well, we'll blow this motherfucking van up with the Cobra. Yee-hee. And so the Cobra flies in, and, tow missiles are designed for a specific thing, right? They're really designed to kill tanks, not, 8-passenger minivans. And so they fly this Cobra comes in, and they shoot this tow missile in, and it comes in and it hits right below the van and skids underneath the van and hits the wall on the other side and blows up. Boom, big explosion. It looks like
but the van keeps going.
No, the van stopped. The van parked there. Big explosion. Everybody's like, the Cobra's flying away, and everybody that sees it is like, oh, fucking blew that van to shit. Like everybody's excited that the van got blown up, and then they come back around, and then you see the van still there, because the tow missile just went right past it, and so they make a 20 millimeter run on it. They use the main gun on it, and then I think they fire it, and I think they hit it again. They hit another tow missile on it.
Do you think everybody in the van was like stunned, concussed, or dead at that point?
Probably.
Or do you think they were able to unass when they did the run?
No. They never left that van.
Got it.
They never left.
Got it. And then you're like, we need some more?
No, they're like, then that's when the FAC is like, where are they? And you go, they're over here, right? They're over there. And then the Cobra made a run. The Cobra made a run parallel to us and shit, firing 20 millimeter into the school and all that shit. And then he flew off because he went bingo. I think the Cobra was running out of fuel because he came a long way.
And that 20 is definitely punching through all the walls.
20 is punching through the wall.
Daylight.
Yeah, you're seeing daylight.
No one's
shit.
safe there.
Yeah, they were not happy if they were in there. They were definitely going, I want to go home. And he went bingo and left. And that's when the Huey was like, we want to play. We want to get involved. Well, the problem with the Huey is the guy was on the kind of wrong side. So they come in and they arc this way, and me and Campbell are pressed up against this concrete wall. It's only, I think it was probably 4.5 feet high concrete wall. It was concrete, it was a good solid wall. But me and Campbell are on this wall, and we had moved out to the wall because when the Cobra came, we wanted to see impact, right? And I still, this Huey comes way arcing up. And you could see the kid with the minigun, right? He comes way arcing up. And it's flying, and it turns right down the road. And so he's running right down the road like a drag strip. And this kid is leaning all the way out. He's leaning all the way out, and he's
just swiping. He's
just fucking throwing fucking 7.62 minigun everywhere. Like, these bullets they're just going everywhere. It was really cool to see. And I am probably imagining this.
Smile.
I see the smile. It was probably just a face shield. The kid probably had a face shield on. But I see the smile that is as big as his fucking helmet, and he's just raking down the road. And I look at Campbell and I go, we're about to get really fucked up. Get down. And so we lay down, and they hose right on by and shit.
How many rounds does that helicopter have for the minigun?
I do not know. One pass. They only made one pass.
Do you think, like, once they're out of, do they have to reload that, or is everything linked in a helicopter? I don't know how
it's
the helicopter
all, it's
works.
all linked. It's all linked.
So that's all he's got is all he's got.
Yeah.
There's no reload for it at that point. And then
I don't know what the bag is. There's a bag that they put all that in, and it links to the chute.
And then jets after that?
And then F-18s after that, yeah. F-18s after that. And so the F-18, our target was seriously danger close. So the target that they had picked out was it was what they called the computer lab, and it was seriously danger close. But there was a lot of guys in there.
What the fuck is the computer lab?
It was the place in town where they would go and get on the internet.
Okay.
And so it was seriously it was way too danger close, actually. But because of the way the police station was constructed, outer wall, outer building, inner building, I thought we're going to be good.
We might be okay.
No, I knew we would be okay as long as they hit the target. And so, but again, remember, I have to relay all the target information. I have to relay all the target information to the FAC, and then the FAC talks to the plane. I can hear them talking. So I get the squad, the reinforced squad element I have, and I'm like, hey, F-18s are coming in. Get in the center building. Everybody get down as low as you can. And I'm at the outer building watching the aircraft. And Padron was the squad leader. He was the one in charge of everybody. And he's in there, and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, just wait. And I see this F-18, and they're talking it through, and they identify the target, and he comes around, and one of the things they tell you is when an aircraft goes wings level. So when he's wings level, he's never supposed to be wings level with you. Meaning he's never supposed to be like coming at you. And so I'm standing out there, and I'm listening to the radio. I hear the FAC call ball, and he's like wings level, and he pops, and he's looking right at me. And I'm like, holy shit. And Campbell's like, what's going on? I go, this is either going to be the coolest thing we ever see in our lives, or it's going to be really bad. And I watched the bomb. He not Bombay doors, but I watched those 1,000-pounders come off there, or 500 pounders. I believe they were 500 pounders. I watched them come off, and they're just sailing right towards us. They're sailing right towards us. They fly right over the top of us, and then boom, hit the building right on the mark and blow the shit out of it. That was pretty cool. But again,
Is that the very end of the fight?
that's the end of the fight. Yeah,
And
they're
you
done.
just walked home?
Then we just walked home. Yep.
There's no more, not even a stray.
No, not even
fucking
not even a
pew
stray,
pew, no
not even a
noisy
stray
cricket
dog.
or nothing.
Not even a stray dog. That was definitely the end of the fight, and it was good because I was doing the ammo consolidation and everything, and we were all out of ammo. Like I pulled my stupid pistol out. I'm like, pew pew. I never shot it because the pistol is stupid. It's just dumb.
But you had no more loaded.
I had no
magazines
more
for the
5.56. We had no more. The smalls were bingo. The 203 gunner. We had one 203 round left. And remember, I packed my rifle platoon. So my rifle platoon was armed like it was Mac v SOG going into Vietnam. These guys weren't carrying like. I hate to offend all you keyboard warriors, but none of my Marines were carrying 6 magazines. None of my Marines were carrying 8 M203 grenades. They were carrying every fucking round possible that they could carry. Like we were always carrying extra shit. So we went bingo for the most part. I was actually mad at when we got to. So we basically left that place, and we went to the outskirts of town where the other squad was and linked up with them. And that's Padron was like, I got 1 grenade left. I was actually mad at him because he had 1 grenade left, but his 203 had broke. He couldn't fire it. So, and then we linked up with that squad. Nothing happened. And then, something happened. And then we went back. But no fights after that.
Have you seen this dude, this Vietnam vet, Mac Sog
I
guy?
haven't watched it.
That was just on Sean Ryan's show. So he was saying every time they went out, they carried as many grenades as they could. Like he wanted 15 grenades on every one of his dudes, something to that effect. Mm-hmm. He's like, he said, when we set up an ambush, we set up 12 claymores.
Yeah.
He said when somebody hit a tripwire, like everything got him. Like there was nobody behind him, nobody to the side, everything. He's like, when we set up a claymore, we set up 12 claymores.
Yeah, that's kind of. I lived again, due to educational issues, my entire upbringing was through Vietnam books, and I really gravitated towards the Mac v SOG type, that Vietnam, and that's kind of where I got my idea of, as far as what you have to carry every time you have to carry. I always carried more than the required loadout. Even when I was a saw gunner, in Charlie Company 19, my platoon sergeant would be like, "Why are you carrying all that ammo?" I'm like, "Cause, P is for plenty. You can not. We can't go back to get more. Plus, most people don't understand that a saw, the rate of fire is so high that it quickly becomes just a paperweight. So I had always carried more of everything. It was always plus P for everything. But yeah, that's where I got it. Is those Mac v SOG guys were operating in such small teams that it was that first contact that decided whether they lived or died. Where if you're in an infantry battalion or a fucking rifle company, that contact can actually, the flow of that contact can change in your favor, change in their favor quite a bit before you're actually in real danger. Whereas if you're in a small team, a fucking sniper team, a reconnaissance team, a Mac v SOG team, something like that, you can't go back and forth with them. You have to initiate contact in a violent and extremist manner that makes them think that you're bigger than you actually are, so you can break contact. So that that's all. Well, that shit's legit. Those guys, because they had a lot of people don't know this. I mean, because they don't. But you had Mac v SOG guys, these teams that would go into the jungle. They would literally go into the jungle and never make first radio contact, just fucking wiped out. And so when you have that. When you're in a unit like that, where the unit itself is very small, and then the units that are operating in the field are very small, and somebody just disappears off the face of the planet, that is only first contact. That means they got overwhelmed by a larger force, and so guaranteed, the minute that unit disappeared, the guys that were follow on to go in that area were like, I need another grenade, I need 20 more magazines, I need to be able to put as much firepower down as I possibly can. Give me whatever. So, yeah.
Well, you've been saying it forever.
Yeah, I know I have, because it's the truth.
And now I see I'm watching other videos and stuff, and dudes are saying the same thing now. Now you've got this dude, this Max Sog guy comes out and says the exact same fucking thing. And the crazy, I read the comments, and nobody's like, oh, bullshit. There's not I didn't see a single comment in any of that shit, even on the designated, even on that automatic rifleman video, Dirty Civilian. I didn't see a single dipshit in there that's like, bullshit, combat loadout 6 mags.
Well, that's because it is for a truck driver. It's not for a real fighter. And but the other thing too is, I
think they've just...
I never learned... No, okay, so I didn't learn that from the military. Like, the military... There was not a point where I was in the military where they're like, hey, you should carry 4 more magazines. I learned that from real-life experience. Not my real-life experience, but taking real-life experience from people in combat. And because of what real combat soldiers have done throughout... Because even if you think... People will be like, oh, the loadout for the average soldier is 80 rounds of 30-06 for the M1 Garand. Do a little more research and find out how much ammo they carried in when they went across the shores of D-Day. They did not carry just 80 rounds. No frontline trooper ever carried 80 rounds. That's some bullshit that they used to count bullets. And so I got that from real world experience. I never got it from the military. And again, I was technically proven right several times where more was better than not. But I will say this, for the average infantry guy that's just doing average infantry stuff in a regular infantry platoon,
who the fuck wants to be average?
The odds of the requirement to have more is not necessarily true, especially the way we fight now. Now, if we were fighting the Chinese, I guarantee you, if we're fighting the Chinese, no one's going to go, oh, that magazine is just too heavy, I'm not carrying it. No one's going to do that.
Do you remember when we didn't know what COD was? COD?
Oh, COD, yeah.
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty.
It seems like the Call of Duty warriors are all offline now. You know what I think it is? I think
they're getting ready to come out with a new one. That's why.
I don't know. But I think, like all those, combat loadout 6 mags. You don't see those comments anymore. I think it's because they've kicked the trannies out of the military. Like, I don't see a bunch of motherfucking dudes in uniform getting their nails did and shit. Like, that seems to have been put to an end.
Yeah, they have done that, but I don't know. I think it's just people have these... They get stuck in these dogmas that... Because, again, you could say that the reality is I humped a lot of ammo. I humped a lot of ammo and a lot of weight for 20 years in the military, that if you average out, I didn't need to. Mm-hmm. Meaning, right, until you did. And that's kind of the way I always... That's kind of the way I always looked at it. Even when we were doing peacetime missions, even when I was in Singapore, just walking through the jungle, I still had the magazines.
How many F-18s came in that day?
Just two.
Okay, and so 2 and a Cobra and a Huey.
And a Huey, yeah.
So 4 aircraft came in.
Yeah.
When you left the base to go on patrol that day, did you think you were going to get in contact?
No.
That's the point, right?
Yeah, there. No, that is the point. The point is, if you look at any real combat stuff, like if you can go back to Black Hawk Down, right? You can look at Black Hawk Down and you can see where they were doing these hits, these kind of routine hits, and the hits got routine enough. They were able to figure it out.
The
hits got routine enough to where guys started leaving ammunition behind, where guys started leaving their plates behind, where guys started doing things that...
I don't need water.
When the fucking thing really happened, it became a problem that they decided to leave that piece of equipment behind. You don't get to pick. That's the kind of thing that a lot of people don't understand, especially in the way we fight war now. You don't get to pick the time and the place that the enemy is going to attack you. All you get to do is to decide what kind of fight you're going to give them when they show up. And if you decide that you only need 6 magazines, you're not going to be in the fight very long. And if you're not in the fight very long, there's a good chance you're not going to win that fight.
Your mag's loaded to 28 or 30?
28. It's a loading habit, so 28.
Does it matter nowadays?
There are plenty of people out there who will say that will say load them to 30, right? The magazine's supposed to hold 30. But the issue with the M16 platform, so the issue with the M16 platform is the way the bolt is designed. So the bolt actually dips into the magazine well. And so, because the bolt actually dips into the magazine well, when you have full 30 round magazine in your full 30 round magazine, the bolt actually compresses it down a little bit. And so the bolt is compressing it down. Well, a good designed M16 magazine or AR-15 magazine is designed for 30, not 31. So when you're going to put that magazine in, and if the bolt is closed, there is a chance, no matter how slight of a chance it is, there is a chance that the magazine catch is not going to catch, but it's going to put pressure on the top. So you think that the magazine, there are hundreds of thousands of videos that you can go watch of guys going to shoot their gun and the fucking magazine falling out of the gun.
So why 28, not 29?
I mean, it's not necessarily, when I say 28, I'm just saying I download it. Sometimes it's 29, it doesn't matter.
Magazines, you keep them loaded in your safe?
Oh, God.
For 20 years?
No, I don't. I do have...
Do you believe that it could be an issue in the future?
I do have magazines that are loaded currently. I have had... again, I had magazines that were loaded for 6 months continuously. That were, I don't want to say very rarely, but were not emptied all the way all the time. And I never had a problem with those magazines.
Those PMags?
I use...
Stanag mags?
I use regular aluminum Stanag mags.
Even
PMags
today?
are even... I'm susceptible to all the bandwagon stuff everybody else does. I have 100 PMags. But even now, I'm kind of like, I just like the aluminum ones better. Is it real? I've never had a bad PMag.
At this point, aren't the PMags cost less than the metal ones?
No, because of PMags, PMags have actually driven the cost of metal mags down, and metal mags are becoming. I have, but I don't. I'm not looking for new manufacturer. I'm looking for old, crusty magazines that I still hunt for 20 rounders.
Are you going to put a new spring kit and follower in it?
Nope.
No.
Because it's just, unless the magazine itself, what I'll do, I'll shoot through the mags. If the magazine itself gives me a problem, then I will start to address the problem. But outside of that, I don't do it because it's just not. You don't know. Like I've had magazines from, like I got magazines from SOI, from School of Infantry, which those magazines that are at the School of Infantry get used and abused way more than the magazines in the fleet. And I've had some of those magazines for 25 years and never had a problem. And then I've had brand new, we transitioned to, for a little while, I don't know why we're getting Brownell magazines, maybe because of the new follower system, but I've transitioned to Brownell magazines and had problems with the Brownells. We had problems with the HK, the all HK magazines. So it just depends. You just got to use your equipment. That's all.
Sounds like we need to bring back the 24 mag war bag.
Did we have a 24 round?
It was the 4 mag, but you could put 24 if you put no other shit. People lost their shit over it.
Yeah.
Who's carrying 24 mags? You couldn't even pick it up. So extra. If you're carrying extra ammo in your pack, it's always going to be in magazines.
Oh yeah. You're never leaving the fob with stripper clips. Like that's when you see a lot of people don't realize this, but even when you see Vietnam Vietnam photos and you see the guys that have the bandolier strapped around them, that's not That's not ammo in stripper clips. That's ammo in 20-round magazines that they've put in those.
For guys who
those
haven't seen the bandoliers, there's a second line of stitching in there.
For the 30-rounders.
And when you pull that stitching out, it allows 30-round mags to go in there.
You can actually make... There's a pretty good video of... I believe he's in the National Guard. Pretty good video of a National Guard guy who makes a chest rig out of the fucking clip, out of the bandolier. So you can... But yeah, you're not leaving with ammo. That kind of went out of fashion because it was it's a logistical thing. It's a penny cruncher thing. You leave them in the bandoliers and you leave them on the stripper clips so that when you turn them in, it's not a big deal for the fucking supply nerds to count them and put. But in combat, you don't do that.
Could you imagine consolidating back into that small little room in the inner compound there to load magazines while the gunfight's going on?
Yeah, you're even the entire time you're in country, all your magazines are loaded. Even the guys that never were in the fight at all back at Al Assad and all that, their magazines were loaded. There was never a situation where they were like, okay, you got to report to the ASP to get the.
So you would never take a can of 5.56 840 rounds and be like, here's some for you. Put this in your pack. Put this in your pack.
Now they did load. Some guys, especially if you were in a vehicle, they would fill those 50 cal ammo cans with magazines. But nobody's carrying stripper clips and doing that bullshit.
Okay, so back to Putin.
Yeah, what about Putin?
In Alaska.
He's in Alaska.
And the meeting went well, it seems.
Yeah.
Seems open. Seems like you might want to end this war.
Yeah, he definitely wants to end the war.
So within a couple days, they have this meeting over in Europe with Zelensky.
Yep.
And Zelensky's like, okay, well, I guess Trump was on video conference or whatever with him. And Zelensky's like, okay, we'll start looking at ending the war in 6 months. And Trump's like, no, you will do this today. Today, tomorrow, you will start putting this together. And then last night I saw that Russia bombed the shit out of fucking Ukraine again.
The problem is, again,
you've said every time.
We've talked about this. We've talked about this for a long time. The problem is we've allowed propaganda to run a narrative, and the propaganda, because of the way the propaganda has been forced on Americans, is we believe that the Ukrainians are winning this war. We believe that somehow the Ukrainians are getting the upper hand because of drones or whatever the bullshit new thing is that they keep saying. They said that the F-16s were going to end the war in Ukraine. They said the M1 Abrams are going to end. They always have this thing that's going to end the war, and it's not. Because for whatever reason, the powers that be always forget that they forget how Russians fight wars. And so the attrition level is way too high. They'd be like, oh, the attrition level is way too high for the Russians. Then why do the Russians keep gaining ground everywhere they go?
That's what Trump said. He said, you're going to do this right now. Within 6 months, you're going to lose 40,000 more people. Yeah,
they keep gaining ground.
They're saying that there's over 1 million dead over this thing already.
I would believe that. Yeah, I would believe that. I bet it's more, actually. The Russians have probably lost 500,000 in ground combat troops. Ukrainians got to be close to somewhere in there.
You think that's
a good way? And then that's not even including all the civilians that have been killed.
You think they get rid of their less desirables in these situations? Empty the prisons and such?
Who?
Russia? Anyone?
Yeah,
Russia, anyone. Ukraine?
Hell, McNamara, our own Defense Secretary John McNamara had a whole thing where he had a whole thing where they were just flooding the army with people with substandard IQs on purpose. So yes, they do that all the time. The people, it doesn't matter which country you live in. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. The people who are pulling the strings, they're as evil as evil. It doesn't matter if they're Democrats, Republicans, communists, or whatever, Hindu, Buddhists. They're all, if they're at the top pulling the strings, they do evil shit in the name of whatever flag they're flying. So, yeah, of course they do that. The Russians have classically emptied prisons on the battlefield, and they the reality is, from a purely pragmatic perspective. So if you just look at it from a warfare perspective, it worked really well. What the Russians were doing is they were taking these prisoners, these people that were actually a burden on society. I know, but they're in prison. So if you're in prison, you're a burden of society. Society has to pay for you to be in prison. They were taking these burdens of society. They were offering an opportunity to go free. But then what they were doing with them was using them as cannon fodder, not in the traditional sense of cannon fodder, but what they would do with those guys is they would back them up with real Russian infantry, real Russian military guys. And then they would take those guys and they would be like, the Ukrainians are somewhere over there. And these guys would haphazardly do whatever they have to do to get over there. And then the Ukrainians would see them and fucking light them up. And they would light them up with the weapon systems that they have available. And then the Russian infantry guys would be like, oh, okay. There's a crew-served weapon. There's a crew-served weapon. There's a bunker right there. And then they would go fucking blow those guys up.
Do you think
so they were using them. They were using them like, you know, a piece of equipment.
Do you think those dudes were armed?
Yeah, they give them weapons. But again,
right. Small arms versus
again, they're giving them weapons. They're not giving them they're not giving them anything spectacular.
That's what I'd heard. I heard that you'll have one dude with night vision,
Yeah.
and you'll have 12, 15 more dudes just hand on shoulder following the dude with night vision.
That's classic 1990s Marine Corps. We had a rifle company would have one TVS-5. That's the dual tube fucking Star Wars ones. And you would have a guy behind you. You would be walking, but you'd have a guy behind you holding you because you had no depth perception, and a lot of times dudes would just fall into holes and shit. And then, but everybody else would be following the guy with MVGs. It's again, that's the thing that most people in the defense industry won't tell you, and most people, well, definitely nobody in the Pentagon and the defense industry will tell you this, is that our adversaries are 25 years behind us, if they're even that close. Like all of them, China, Russia, our adversaries are 25 years behind us. And any adversary that we have, say we'll just pretend like Great Britain ends up getting taken over by Muslims and the country goes to hell in a handbasket. The only reason why they would be close to the United States in technology is because the technology we sold them. So, we are so far ahead of our closest peers, not only in equipment, but the way we train our forces. Our forces are even in this ridiculous state of wokeness, our forces are trained so much better than the rest of the world. It's not even a fucking competition. Like, it's not. Russia would, when people are like, oh, Russia or China, they don't stand a chance. They have an opportunity. Probably not Russia. I will give Chinese some credit. They have an opportunity to do some serious damage. They do have an opportunity to do some serious damage. They do have a lot of weapons. They do have a lot of bodies to throw at it. But when it's over, it wasn't me. Or maybe it was Instagram. When it's over, it won't be the Chinese flag that'll be flying over Taiwan. It'll be a Taiwan flag with a little American flag underneath it, because we're going to be the reasons why Taiwan stays in the Pacific. Maybe even a smaller little Japanese flag, because it's going to be Japan that really goes in there and starts shit. So
what do you think comes of all of this stuff with Ukraine and Russia and everything? You think this comes to an end pretty quickly?
I don't know. Because again, remember, people think that these things, this stuff is kind of new or whatever. Like, you have all these fucking dumbass Americans that are like, oh, Putin's just going to give everything away to the Russians, and he's a Russian stooge, and blah, blah.
Putin's going to?
That Trump is going to give everything away to the Russians. And that, when wars end, there's a negotiation on who gets what. It's kind of like, when World War II ended, Vietnam didn't become Vietnam. Vietnam became French Indochina. It went back to the French. The Vietnamese had to fight for their freedom. That war ended, and when that war ended, they didn't negotiate and go, oh, well, you can just be Vietnam. They went back to French Indochina. They went back to all the colonies. Went back to the original holders. So Germany lost a shit ton of stuff. We gained a bunch of stuff because Germany lost, both in World War I and in World War II. That's how it works. The winners get to decide what happens on the battlefield. And unfortunately, Ukraine is not winning. They're not winning. If they were winning, Zelensky wouldn't be talking about territory that needs to be turned back over. He wouldn't be talking about it. The Russians would be talking about it. The Russians would be like, "Hey, give us our shit back," and that's not what's happening. So that's we talked about this before. The worst time to be in a war is when it's coming to its conclusion, because everybody wants to fight for that extra 2 inches. Because if I can get that extra 2 inches on the battlefield, then the 2 inches, then the space that I already have, there's a good chance in negotiation I'll be able to keep it. I'll have to give you those 2 inches back, but there's a good chance that I'll be able to keep it. So that's what Russia is doing right now. They're trying to take as much fucking ground as they possibly can. So when we do go to the negotiating table, Russia will give, I promise you, when this is all said and done, Russia will give you some territory. Russia's going to give territory back to the Ukrainians. There's going to be a point where the Ukrainians will cross the current line and move forward. But I also guarantee that everything that the Russians asked for in the beginning, they're going to keep it.
I'm pretty sure what Russia's asking for is about 20% of Ukraine.
Yeah, that Donbass area, they're gonna keep what, but again, they control it now.
Do they?
So
everything he's asking for,
everything he's asking for, they control it now. So
Can you drop that temp a little bit?
So he's gonna have to. They will give up territory again when they get to the table. It's always, especially in a situation like this, it's always tit for tat. It'll be like, okay, we'll give up this, but we get to keep this. You give up this, but we get to keep this, right?
So a lot of the thought is that by ending this with Trump in the middle and putting this to an end, it's good for, well, I don't know about Ukraine, but it's good for Russia, right? And the speculation is that we will bring Russia on as a trading partner. And what that does is right now, China's just kind of watching this shit. Mm-hmm. Like they don't really have a say in any of this shit. But China's buying all Russia's oil. So if we buy Russia's oil and we bring them on as a trading partner, it kind of alienates China even a little bit more.
Well, again, if you...
And apparently we've completely crushed China's, with the tariffs and everything. We've shut down all kinds of their factories. Or at least their propaganda is that the factories are shut down now. Listening to people talk, I was just listening to a guy, a reptile dude, right? And he imports a ton of shit like UVB bulbs and different types of light spectrum bulbs and different things from China. And he said that the factories are completely closed down. He said he's been dealing with these people, and he's not been there, but he deals with them. He's like, man, they send me a Christmas card. They send me every holiday. They send me a birthday card. They send me video chats of the whole factory. Hey, thank you so much for doing business. We've just built this. We build all this for you. And he said that he's talking to these people now, and the factories are completely shut down.
I mean, it's possible. But again, it's a different. People don't understand. It's a different animal. When you start to go after. When you start to talk about China in sort of a economic, or when you talk about China as a real country, you can't really pigeonhole them into anything. China could kill 40 million people tomorrow, literally line them up, kill 40 million people tomorrow, and it wouldn't affect the operations within China.
I think they did during the COVID stuff.
Well,
they did disappear a ton of people.
I'm sure they did. But what I'm saying is, if they could tomorrow do a lottery and be like, we're going to kill you, and outside of, probably not even Gavin Newsom getting upset. Nobody would. It wouldn't affect China. It's not going to affect the Communist Party at all. So it's a different little pigeonhole. They can afford to have those. They can afford to have those factories closed because everything they operate is within the behest of the state, anyways. And so, Pooh Bear don't give a fuck if you don't go to work. Like, he don't really care if you get to go to work. He don't really care if you get, he don't care.
Right, his power stays on.
His power, yeah. So it's a little bit different animal, but yeah, I'm sure from a a local economical standing, they are feeling the effect of it. But again, it is what it is. As if we bring Russia into the fold, it is crazy to think that the Democratic Party would have a problem with bringing Russia in under the affluence of the United States. There's some people growing up in this country that are such fucking warmongers, and the reality is because they don't have to fight. These are all people who fucking don't fight and don't go to war. They're such fucking warmongers that they see the destruction of Russia as like a noble cause. It's not a noble cause. The destruction of Ukraine is not a noble cause. These things are not noble causes. Ending war is a noble cause. And people are going ass fist they're taking the biggest ass fist they possibly can in order to jump through hoops to talk about how terrible Trump is because he's going to end the war in Ukraine. What the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about by even discussing the fact that ending the war in Ukraine would be a bad thing? Bad thing for who? Bad thing for a bunch of fucking old-ass rich people who just want to keep lining their fucking pockets? Bad for the Democratic Party who fucking launders billions of dollars through the Ukrainian infrastructure in order to pad their own fucking pockets? That's who it's bad for. It's bad for a bunch of fucking people who don't give a shit about people. Because it's only people dying over there. Well, it doesn't matter whether they're Ukrainians or Russians. It's only people dying over there, and these motherfuckers don't give two shits about them. Fuck them. I mean, the reality is, I honestly don't care. If the war ends tomorrow, and Ukraine doesn't get a fucking grain of sand back, the war's over, fucker. It's over.
Yeah.
You can open the disco. I mean, not that Ukraine ever open the discotheques, close the discotheques, but you can open it up back and be thankful that they never made it to Kiev. I know that there are Ukrainians that will lose their shit that I said this, because the reality is the Ukrainian forces, so the individuals who've had to fight these Russians have done a fucking hell of a job. They are fighting in some of the most some extreme conditions that the rest of the world hasn't seen since World War One. Like, these guys are really fucking fighting, and to be in that position and then hear that you have to give up some piece of the property that you've been fighting for, that cuts at the core. That cuts at the core. But you're talking to a force that has left behind billions of dollars in Afghanistan, that fucking basically ruined Iraq and has turned it into a failed state. You need to get used to that you're not winning, and sometimes it's better just to be over with. So, yeah, I mean, again, I know that's not what's going to happen, because, again, Trump is the deal master. Russia's not going to lose what it already had. It's going to get to keep what it already had, and it might get to keep a little bit more. And the Ukrainians are going to have to suck it up and end the fucking war. What that means, though, the reality is, that gives, because this is the way it always works, guys. I know people don't understand this. That gives Ukraine the opportunity to fucking take a breath, buy more guns, train more troops, be better prepared.
Get ready for the next one.
And maybe in 10 years you guys fucking take the Donbass back. I don't know. But today, it needs to be over. All you're doing is losing territory, and Vladimir Putin's already decided in his head that he'll kill every fucking Russian between the ages of 18 and 65 in order to fucking keep this war going. So you can't do that. Ukraine can't do that. They're not doing it. So politically it's a fucking loss for Zelensky. But again, remember, the person you're defending, Zelensky, his presidency, has not had an election. He's imprisoned anybody that speaks against him, and he's moving $50 million a month into a Saudi Arabia account that nobody can touch.
Yeah, Zelensky's out of there either way.
So, again, a peaceful end to the war in Ukraine is the best solution we possibly could have.
You saw this truck driver turn and ran over these 3 people in Florida. Have you heard anything more about this?
Well, I mean, yeah. I've heard the whole story. What?
Okay, tell me what you know.
That in 2018, he came in the country illegally.
Yep.
During Trump's presidency. Trump's DHS, so I don't want to say Trump's DHS because it probably wasn't in 2018. I mean, when Trump was president, it probably wasn't his DHS because that first election was just the deep state. But the deep state of that time period denied his work permit. And then when Biden became president, they granted his work permit. And then the state of California gave him a CDL license. And then he killed people. He doesn't speak English very well.
Couldn't pass the English driving exam.
Yep.
The company that he drives for, turns out he owns. It's a LLC. And he has had 25, I think it's 25 moving violations from company to company. There's over 30 these little companies that he has started. Yeah. And as soon as he gets an infraction is no longer, or a infraction and is no longer able to drive or operate, he just starts another LLC and then jumps right in. It's under his wife's name. It's his company. And what's really fucking him is there was no remorse there. Like when he drove over that family or those 3 people. And then they pull him out and he's just kind of chilling. Like, this has happened in the past and I've seen this before and I'll just start another company. And it was Black Moon and then the new company's Black Rock or something very similar. You know, he just kept changing the name on it.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
There's terrible people in this world. I mean, again, you could... I kind of hate it when people... I hate it when people... When there's like a tragedy that happens, some sort of tragedy, and people are like, oh, look at his reaction. Or you either overreacted or you underreacted. Everybody always has this idea of what they're going to do in the face of something really horrible or even not really horrible. They have this idea of what your reaction should be. It's mostly on cop shows when they do that stuff. You don't know how you're going to react when you're in that situation, and you don't know what the proper response is anyways. It's all bullshit. So I mean, again, he may have been completely in shock that 3 people died, or he may be just a psychopath, but you don't know. So I kind of, whenever somebody is talking about somebody's reaction to something, I'm just like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Cleaning up DC.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
420 violent crime criminal arrests. I mean, are they really violent criminals? Who fucking knows? Was there some dudes in there that maybe shouldn't have been rolled up? I don't know, but a lot of them look like they certainly should have been based on what the charges were.
Well, I mean, again, doesn't matter.
Correct.
It doesn't matter if the mayor and the police chief had been doing their jobs, this wouldn't have been a problem. But because they are a liberal Democrat city, their prosecutors don't do their jobs. Their police chief doesn't do her job. The mayor doesn't do her job. They're good for Trump. Good for Trump. And people are the reality is people are getting all booty busted about it. Don't forget, the first thing he did was sent the FBI to Memphis. That was the first thing he did. He sent the FBI to Memphis. And what a lot of people don't know is there was a little girl in D.C., that was shot and killed. I think she was 6. She may have been younger. That was shot and killed. And they're like, holy shit, Mr. President, did you see that this little girl was shot and killed in D.C.? And that's when he was like, send in the guard. And again, because people don't know, Washington, D.C. belongs to the president. He can federalize Washington, D.C. He can't federalize Memphis. That's why Memphis got the FBI. And if you want to, like, people keep pointing to Tupelo, Mississippi. I guess Tupelo, Mississippi has a violent crime problem down there. Again, Trump theoretically can't just send in the army because it's an individual municipality within a state. But he certainly could send the marshals down there. He could send the FBI down there, and he could be like, "Hey, all violent crimes. Let's get on it and fucking start rolling these people up." And the crazy thing is the Gavin Newsom's one of them. He's like, "These are all in red states. These are all in red states.
That's where your problems are.
These are all in red states." Like he's trying to blame it on the governors when every single one of those cities are controlled by Democrats.
So if you took Los Angeles, Chicago, and St. Louis, what do those places have in common?
Democrats?
Right. They're all red, right? And they're also the highest gun violence. The United States is the third highest gun violence country in the world, right? If you remove those three states, it bumps them back to 183.
Yeah.
Just by removing those three cities.
The reality is we know where crime is. We know who's committing those crimes. Because of political reasons, certain individuals on the right and the left tend to look the other way. Because of political ramifications of fucking rolling up the individuals who are committing all the crimes. I'm glad that doesn't matter. Like, Crockett came out and said...
she's lost her. She's gone, right?
Yeah. It came out and said...
she's going to run for
It indirectly affects people that commit crimes. Like, they're protecting criminals. So these Democrats are protecting criminals. Why? I think it's two reasons. One...
it's their own fucking people.
Because of the people that are committing these crimes. But two, more importantly, is... their municipalities. So when you think about a Democrat municipalities, they require a little bit of terror in order to effectively govern. They require that terror. That they require They required everybody to be in this heightened state of awareness,
chaos,
to fucking keep being in charge.
Because you have to be paying attention to that, and not them.
Instead of the constituents holding those people accountable for the failures of their jobs. Period. I mean, the reality is, we should be just fucking going after every... Like, I think that that Trump should... Again, I think this, but I'm glad he's not doing this. That Trump should use the FBI exactly like Joe Biden did. Instead of going after moms at PTA meetings, the FBI should be investigating law enforcement departments all over the country where they have high crime rates.
They should be
arresting them. He should be going after AGs that don't follow guidelines in order for putting people in jail. They should be going after these people and forcing them to do their fucking jobs.
Track that money down for anybody that's funding any of these fucking riots and any of this other shit, and go fucking get them.
Well, we were funding it. You and me, we were funding it.
Sure.
As soon as USAID shut down the
interesting
thing, of bricks ended.
The interesting thing with USAID, when that shut down, all that voting shit for the most part stopped. Have you seen they just found was it a mayor? They just found a mayor or somebody. They have video, 3 different. You need to take that?
No.
They have 3 different instances on video of this dude pulling up, and they're just stuffing ballots in these ballot boxes and these mailing boxes and stuff. And the dude who's running for office, he had like 1,900 votes. They had him on camera stuffing these fucking boxes full. So Trump's talking right now about banning the voting machines, right? Everything has to be in person. So they're all up in arms over this shit. Have you heard any of this?
Yeah, I've heard him. I think that they should do exactly what...
get rid of the fucking Dominion machines.
No, I not necessarily the machines. Because, see, the reason why there's a couple of things that happened that people don't understand on why Donald Trump completely destroyed the Democrats in the vote is... he ensured that there were actually lawyers at all the voting places. So everything that was tallied legally. They couldn't do illegal shit like they did last time, like close polling so that because there's a fucking water leak. And so the Republicans did that this time to make sure that all that stuff was as legit as possible. I think they should do exactly what I think Vance Vance has talked about this. I think they should make a 2-day holiday. They should just make a 2-day national holiday where it's 2 days, national holiday. And you vote in person. If you're not willing to vote in person, then your vote really doesn't count. I'm sorry. If you can't get off your fucking ass and go do one thing for the country, and I know what people are going to say. Oh, what about people that can't move and people that... Again, sorry. If you're in that position where you can't fucking... If you're in that position where you can't make it to vote, then maybe your vote shouldn't count. Maybe your vote really shouldn't count. Because it's not that many people anyways. There's a shit ton of lazy people out there that wouldn't do it. Mm-hmm. But it's not that many people. So I think it should be a national holiday, and I think you should have to vote in person. And you're going to see things will be a lot different. I mean, because the reality is, if you look at the graph, like if you look at the graph over the last 10 presidents, if you look at the graph over the last 10 presidents, you'll see whether a Democrat wins or a Republican wins, you'll see that the voting block is always close. It's always pretty close. That the graph is always close. It doesn't change until Joe Biden's elected. Once Joe Biden's elected, he gets 80 million votes that are all mail-in votes that they don't get in the next election. That is only for us.
Somebody fucked up. It's supposed to be 8 million or some shit. They added an extra
that's
zero.
That's not what they did. It's the reality is what they did is only in places that mattered. So when you talk about Ohio and you talk about there is like 3 or 4 states that you have to win, right? And only in the places that matter. And you can look at this. You can actually use the Wayback Machine and look at this. Only in the places that mattered, that Joe Biden had to fucking win, they all had some sort of hiccup. They all had some sort of count problem. And they all exceeded their registered voters. It was completely, everything they did was completely legal. I mean, the reality is we should be making a shirt right now that says, Donald Trump, third-term president. Because this is his third term. He beat Joe Biden. That's why every one of those municipalities, again, Trump's winning, not by a little bit, but by a big bit. And then, the lights went out, or the plumbing blocked up, and then during the time that nobody was there to witness, Biden gets the exact necessary amount of votes in order to bump his numbers above Trump. And interestingly, while they're counting those votes, they don't count a single vote for Trump. It was the biggest rigged election that the world has probably ever seen. And the Democrats did it, and they're happy that they did it. And you got a shitty fucking president because of it. And then you got a shitty vice president, and then you got a shitty person to be fucking nominated for president. And that's why you got fucking trounced.
She wasn't nominated.
No, she wasn't nominated. Yeah.
Nope. All right, so what do you think from now until next week, when we come back next week, what do you think is going to change? What do you think? What's your projection? We need an 8-ball.
We should ask the 8-ball. You got an 8-ball?
I don't.
Of cocaine? That's the best way to do an 8-ball.
Some people listening have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah. My 8-ball prediction is we will still be ironing out this thing with Ukraine. Because again, remember, there's more fucking turd burglars in the world that want Ukraine's young men and Russian young men dying on the battlefield than don't want them dying on the battlefield. So I think they'll still be hammered next Wednesday. We'll still be talking about a possible peace deal. Russia's going to keep forcing. They're going to keep taking inches. It's just the way it is because they have the capability. Trust me, if the Ukrainians had the capability, if they had the capability to take land back, they would be doing the same exact thing. But right now they're on their back foot and Russia's pushing forward. And that's just the way it's going to be until something like, I don't know, the Poles volunteer a 1 million-man army to help fight. That's the only thing that's going to change anything is if they can get boots on the ground. And I don't think anybody at this point is going to commit boots on the ground. So we'll still be talking about that. Gavin Newsom will still be looking like a cuck. Let's see, what else? I don't know. I mean, there's not a lot going on.
Do you think Trump's going to make Zelensky? You think Trump and Zelensky are going to go to Russia to sign the agreement?
No, I don't think so.
Ooh, I don't know.
I don't think so. No, I think if they come to a peace agreement, it's either going to be in a third party country, so maybe Paris, because that's usually where people like to sign peace agreements, is in Paris for some reason. I don't know. The French don't like Trump right now, so they might have to go somewhere else.
He was there. He was at the meeting.
Yeah, I know, but
I mean, that guy can't tell a man from a woman, anyways. He doesn't get to say.
No, they wouldn't get a say. It's just
I know.
It's just this.
I know
what we call it a neutral area to sign this document. But Trump is a bit of a egomaniac. I mean, he would be studied too if psychologists get around him. He's a bit of an egomaniac. So I feel like it'll be some U.S. territory. Like it'll be maybe we fly Vladimir back into Alaska and send Zelensky up there too, or it'd be great if they did it in Hawaii. Then they all could go to the beach afterwards, get a little sun. But yeah, I think it's not going to be in Russia. Trump's not going to. I don't think.
that'd be terrible for Hawaii's tourism.
I don't think. No. Why would it be terrible?
Because nobody could use any of the fucking beaches or be in.
It'd be
nothing
fine.
could be in the air. Nothing could happen.
all the liberals would want to fly into. It'd just be all these crazy blue hairs flying into Hawaii to try and protest him on the beach. So
how'd they even get in? I thought this all took place on a military base. How'd all those fucking wackos get on to protest there?
they didn't. They weren't anywhere near.
Got it.
They weren't anywhere. Those people were.
Got it.
They weren't even close. Putin didn't.
Even know
Trump
they were
couldn't
happening?
even hear him. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, let's go do Q&A. So if you guys are members on Patreon, or if you're a member here, you're obviously a member if you're listening to this. Every week we post a Ask Your Questions. We build a video similar to this, but all around the questions and interaction that you guys posted. So that's what we're going to go do right now. We'll see you guys next week.
I built this thing from the bottom